Omar, I feel like everyone watching knows that they're not supposed to be spending, but they do it anyways.
Yeah.
Why does it feel so good to be bad?
I want to zoom out and take a look at culturally
Yes.
the environment, right? The messaging within the environment has a lot to do with more, more, more. You are not happy enough, you are not good enough, you are not successful enough, you are not thin enough until
Take it
you
back.
purchase this.
We've seen a lot this season on financial therapy. There's been divorce. Fran, I need to leave him, doing divorce to this man. There's been family drama.
Because she has pretty much threatened us in the past that if we don't do certain things for her, we won't be in the will.
But mostly, we've just seen a lot of spending.
Was going out and running up bar tabs with my friends, never asking for money, going to a nice restaurant, getting unnecessary blowouts.
I do owe $10,000 to my parents.
So we decided to call in an expert to get that under control. Say hello to Omar. Hey guys, I'm with Omar. We're in the studio and he is a licensed psychotherapist. Yes, I brought in the big guns. And he's about to let us know how our emotions lead to impulse spending and what the hell we can do about it.
That's right. Let's dive right in.
Okay, give it to us straight, Omar. What is impulse spending?
So impulse spending is basically like compulsive spending. It's almost like thoughtless, automatic. It's not necessarily strategic, and it's usually in response to some kind of emotional distress.
How does it differ from regular spending?
I tend to find that it is an attempt to almost like emotionally regulate,
Yes.
right? It's about easing the distress around something else or the discomfort around something else.
So it's when your spending is in control of you.
Exactly. And again,
And you're not
it
doing it
almost
because you need something, you're doing it because you want to feel something.
because you want to feel something or because you're trying to avoid something. That's the only tool in your toolkit. Then you're going to come up on some problems like overspending and increasing debt and essentially increasing your anxiety in the
And then
first
you
place.
need to spend more.
And then you need to spend
Yeah.
more, and then you're caught in this like endless cycle of trying to sort of like chase that relief, that peace, or that high that you feel when you are purchasing.
So in your practice, have you seen anyone, and you obviously keep it anonymous,
Yeah.
tell us about some horror stories of overspenders, because I don't think that people know that when you're compulsively shopping, it's not just a cute, crazy thing that you do, oh, look at all those boxes. It's actually an addiction.
One example that comes to mind immediately is a client that I worked with that would spend so much money on magazine subscriptions. And it comes to mind for obvious reasons because that's not something that you hear very often.
No, I love that.
But it was, the association was between learning and reading and feeling good. And so it felt like they were spending money on something good because
Yeah.
they would buy National Geographic and, Science Today.
Like
or
smart
whatever.
ones,
Yeah.
smart, not Us Weekly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so there was something about it that felt healthy to them. And there's a kernel of truth to that. You know what I mean? They weren't buying a yacht or anything like that. But it started to get to the point where they didn't even know themselves why they were spending so much money on magazines, and they were able to recognize that they weren't even able to get through all of the magazines that they were purchasing. So that's when it became really clear to them that, oh, this is not helping me at all. This is getting kind of out of control.
Okay, role play, you're the therapist,
Okay.
and I have a shopping addiction.
Okay.
Okay. Omar, this week has been really hard. I bought 12 new things from Zara. I've been to Starbucks twice a day. I took an Uber here. Your office is 3 blocks from me, and I just feel like I can't stop spending, and I'm so anxious to look at my credit card bill, and I just don't know what to do.
That sounds super stressful.
Yeah.
But let's take a step back. How was money discussed growing up?
Money was not talked about at home, and we would just buy whatever we wanted.
And how do you think that that's playing itself out now? Do you see a connection between those two things? Because it sounds like what was modeled to you was anytime you had an urge, you act on it.
That is what I do. I don't know how to get the urge to go away. Like, how are people minimalist?
One, it's less about getting the urge to go away and more about waiting for it to ebb and flow. Because every feeling is impermanent, even happiness, right? So there are moments when you feel really good, and then you sort of taper off back into your sort of stable, normal baseline, right?
Yeah.
So this is referring to a psychological theory known as the hedonic treadmill, which is basically that, when we get good news or even bad news, we feel good or bad for a moment, and then we settle back into whatever our baseline was. And so it's less about how do I get this to stop, and it's more about how can I be patient and allow this urge, this sensation to exist and then go away.
How can you do that?
Essentially, slowing down. It's going to create some distance, some space between you and the urge. And it's almost like you're a scientist observing an animal in its natural habitat, and you're just watching it do its thing. And if you approach your relationship to this urge as like a scientist just observing something, I think that will allow you the time, the patience, and the wherewithal to not act on it. Situations like this or behaviors like this thrive on secrecy. So one of the first things that I would have you do is to talk to people about it.
I love that.
Right?
Back at Mrs. Mattos. Okay.
And the Oscar goes to...
And we're back. Okay, we're back. Now we're back.
Now we're back,
Couldn't
okay.
see it. Couldn't see it. Still in therapy.
But that's one of the reasons why what you do is so important, is
Yes.
because you're basically saying, no, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Because the more that we talk about it, the more that we demystify, the more that we confront the monster under the bed, the more we realize, oh, there is no monster under the bed.
Omar, I feel like everyone watching knows that they're not supposed to be spending, but they do it anyways.
Yeah.
Why does it feel so good to be bad? Like, why do we pick scabs? Why do we spend money we don't have? Like, why do we eat too much? Like,
yeah, I mean, my approach to this question is kind of two-pronged. So one, I want to zoom out and take a look at culturally
yes.
the environment, right? And the environment, the messaging within the environment has a lot to do with more, more, more. You are not happy enough, you are not good enough, you are not successful enough, you are not thin enough until you purchase this. Until you buy or purchase this thing, this product.
Yes.
And so the messaging
Enoughness.
is, exactly, the message is you're lacking,
Yes.
right? Until you get this. But the problem with that, of course, is that the goalpost is always moving, and then we internalize that messaging. If you're walking through your day-to-day, constantly telling yourself, something is missing, I am not enough, something is lacking, then you will be constantly in search of what? A remedy to that.
And is it that rudimentary that it's just like, oh, I have negative self-talk?
I think it's a large part of it is I have a lot of negative self-talk, and we also assume that the urges are inherently bad, when in fact that is a function of a healthy brain. In all of our brains, we have something that's referred to as the reward system. And so it's different parts of the brain that basically light up and give us a little hit of dopamine whenever something good happens. So it could be like we get a hug from a loved one, we get a compliment, we get a promotion. Those parts of the brain light up, give us a little bit of dopamine. That's the reward system.
Yeah,
When
and then we
good
want
things
it
happen,
again.
And then we want it again. Think of it as like a hunger cue. We wouldn't survive very long as a species if we only ate once and were never hungry again. Use what is already neurobiologically hardwired to work with you and for you, instead of thinking of it as something that you have to like fight against.
That's so helpful. And I feel like some people don't take themselves seriously enough to like self-soothe. Like they just think like, oh, I'm destined to always feel like this. And then you stay, like what would you say to someone like that who's sort of like, but I'm not worth feeling good?
To that, my initial response would be, well, that's just not true. And then we would talk about where they learned that lesson. Who told you that? And I would tell them, like, I think you're worth it. I think you're worth the effort. That's why I'm here, because I see worthiness in you.
So, but basically, if you're like a big impulse shopper, you need to get your ass in therapy.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I don't think it's gonna hurt. I don't think it's gonna hurt. You know, no one does this life thing alone.
You hear that, people?
So
it's not a solo act.
So I like that. It's
Yeah.
exactly. It is not a solo act. You gotta recruit help.
Oh, I love help.
Recruit help, and to focus not only on what feels good, but what feels meaningful to you.
We're gonna take a beat when we feel the urge and observe it. And then if it starts to scream and be like a little child, wah, I need the Zara top.
You're gonna remind yourself
That like laugh at yourself and be like, it's a top from Zara.
It's a top from Zara.
I'm good. Like, this is the work. Like, laugh. Like, be lighthearted. Like, don't take it so seriously.
inject some levity into
Levity is always humor.
Yep.
It's God's medicine.
Amen.
For everyone at home, what are some tools and tips that you can leave us with?
There was one takeaway I'd love for your audience to walk away with. It's that there's nothing wrong with you. You're not a problem to be fixed. You are
not a problem to be fixed.
You're a puzzle to be understood.
Oh.
Right? And so this is something to understand. This isn't something to judge or pathologize or to feel terrible about. You are not alone. You are not the first person to struggle with this, and you will not be the last. Approach this with firm compassion, right? Be compassionate, but hold yourself accountable.
Thank you, Omar, for coming to sit down with us. You are so wise. I feel like we learned so much about how to control our impulses and why we have impulses. And now all that's left to do is take action, put all these lessons to use. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope this helped you control your impulse spending, and stay rich, bitch.
Bye.